Welcome to part two of our X-Men podcast. We're looking at the original film that came out in 2000. It's the 20th anniversary coming up as we record this. And in part two, we're kind of going to break down the film itself into its different acts and how it's structured. The synopsis is as follows: they are children of the atom, Homo superior, the next link in the chain of evolution. Each was born with a unique genetic mutation, which at puberty manifested itself in extraordinary powers. In a world filled with hate and prejudice, they are feared by those who cannot accept their differences. Led by Xavier, the X-Men fight to protect a world that fears them. They are locked in a battle with former colleague and friend Magneto, who believes humans and mutants should never coexist. The movie starts with a very, very powerful prologue scene we mentioned earlier, and I think it was a very good way of kind of making us understand Magneto's pain. Raven, what did you think of this opening scene, seeing a young Eric?
I do love the portrayal of it. I think that, this scene more than any in the film really stood out to me when I was younger. I didn't get the, can't lie, for a while, I didn't physically notice the whole fence thing. I think at first I was like, I don't get it. But, then I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense. But, I like that, it was brief, but I almost kind of wish the film not stayed in that tone, but was slightly closer to it, But yeah.
I mean, we got that in X-Men First Class where they redid that
exactly.
whole sequence, right?
And I love that part because in my head they're connected, so it was hard not going to First Class and then continuing the
Where's Kevin Bacon?
Back. Yeah, exactly.
Where's Kevin Bacon?
As far as I'm concerned, Kevin Bacon was in the office waiting, I'm just ooh, what next, so I was like, oh.
He was
waiting. I forgot we skipped however many years into the future now. But I did think that it was well done.
The first act of the film has a lot of exposition. A lot of exposition. If you couldn't figure it out, they're going to tell you again and again and again. Mike, the opening scene opens with introducing Jean, Charles, Eric, and Senator Kelly while they're discussing the Mutant Reform Act. What did you think of how they established the nuance in terms of the issues they were dealing with right there? In terms of Kelly saying, mutants can come into your house. They don't need a gun. They are a gun. Where then you have Eric and Charles together, kind of waiting to see what the humans do. And Eric's like, no, humans, I know what they're gonna do. And Charles is like, no, have faith in them. That whole dynamic in that whole first act. What did you think of that?
I understand that it's gonna take some time to really settle what each side is after right now. This is the first time we're being exposed to it. As we were talking about, the pace is slow, but for a reason. And it's all right, we just got to get through this one slow movie to really understand what it's going to be like moving forward. With this, it's it brings up, now watching it again, bringing up both sides of the argument that you could really understand how, while it's wrong to assume that everyone's going to be using these powers for bad, it's how can you actually trust that someone will do that? He made a good point. It's this woman who can walk through walls. What's her to stop from walking into a bank or, up to the president? It's, it's yes, these are real dangers, but what are you doing about it? What are you doing to make yourself feel better? I guess it's also, you could say the exact same thing. It's well, fuck your feelings. These are still people. You shouldn't treat them like this machine that's out of control. And so you got to sit down. He doesn't even want to talk about it. He just wants to pass a bill to try to expose everyone. I think that had to do with the CIA exposing communists, a blacklist. It's I have a list of everyone that's mutant. And so now you have to register and expose yourself, as you were saying, mutants kind of coming out. This was also commentary on that. And so around that time is when you're starting to, discover your feelings, discovering parts about you. And now these people are tell you well, if you are, you have to tell us, which is completely unfair to those that have to now force themselves to be
you
well,
can't
this
out
is
people.
Yeah, that's that's invading privacy and all rights. So now they're not even seeing these people as humans anymore. It's now they are their own race of mutants. You are not one of us. Even though
sounds familiar.
Yeah, I know, right? I did all this.
What is that?
This opening sequence. This opening sequence kind of also, it plants the seeds to Magneto's true nature, right? Magneto's, ultimately he's one of those people that uses a cause to fund his own agenda. But he makes it seem as if he's funding everyone's cause. Because ultimately, he wants to do to the humans what has been done to him. not to peace. He doesn't want peace. He's just like, we are the new kind of rulers now. And to a point, I understand where he's coming from, but his whole thing is, but his whole thing is always like, no, I want to kill the humans. I mean, he's that kind of black and white. There is no gray area. Even if you're one of my own kind, I said earlier, he was willing to let Rogue die. And it's almost like Magneto, because of his rage, which again is elaborate. Oh, First Class is so great because it elaborates on that, his rage. He almost becomes the enemy he hated. In that sense, he becomes that enemy that he hates. But then on the flip side, there's a scene later on where Mystique says to the senator, it's people like you that made me afraid to go to school as a kid. It's almost the humans on the other side created this monster because of fear, right? We feared it, so we castrated it, but then it became a monster because of how we treated it, as opposed to if we'd embraced it earlier on. And I think all these are kind of set up at the beginning of this, and which takes us to the introduction of Rogue and Logan, which are also extreme examples of bad things that could happen, where someone like Rogue, just a touch put someone in a coma. Introducing that person that's kind of almost the vulnerability of someone who's young, doesn't understand what's happening to them, and but somehow they're a danger to everyone. Meeting somebody who has been used and abused in terms of Wolverine. We don't get much to his story, but he's someone who's kind of been abused and used. As much as I didn't like Rogue throughout the story, I understand where they were coming from and the direction and why they chose this path. Sadie's, what did you think of the introduction of Rogue and Logan?
Knowing what I know from like the comics when I originally saw it, I think I was just so hyped that I was seeing it on screen that I was like, yeah, I accept it, I take it. But now rewatching it, I feel like they tried to make him into the more like the father role, kind of like that whole X-23 vibe, and not necessarily focusing on the character development like that you could do with Rogue. So you kind of turn Rogue into this whiny, save me, but she's not. She actually is like, I don't want to fuck with anybody because I can kill you. So I don't want to talk to you. Versus like this person who's like longing for connection and touch from, then that doesn't really, so I wasn't really crazy about it. Hindsight 2020, I guess. But I still like the film. It still holds up 20 years later. Let's remember, it's 20 years later, so it's still good. Right. I still love it.
I think, Raven, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that boss scene when Wolverine is introduced from the cage fight and then the boss scene, one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I think it's a good introduction.
Yeah, so dope. I love his introduction. That's the worst thing about it, is like a lot of the introductions are really dope. But after all of the introductions, like, let's get to it,
yeah.
But yeah, I did realize though, in this time, I was watching the fight, and I was kind of, wow, that escalated quickly. Like with the dude, he comes over, give me my money. And he's like, I know what you are. Dude. Yeah, and dude's like, well, if you know what I are, like, once. Get out of here before I take something else or whatever. And then dude's like, okay, walks away. And like, a knife? Really? Really? You're just gonna poke someone at the bar? Okay. Like, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And like, even if he is a mutant, you're gonna stab one of them? Are you serious? Once you figured it out, especially that you figured out that this man literally can't get his ass kicked at your best day, like, what's that knife gonna do, bro? Just go. Just go. I was like, that was an interesting scene. Yeah, the moment with the claw coming out.
Popping out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought that was really awesome. Cool. I was like, yeah, still holds up. That definitely still holds up.
Or was that during Origins?
Right. One of my favorite moments as a great way to kind of showcase Wolverine's powers was when Rogue is like, you should really have your seatbelt on. He's like, what? Whatever. Car gets stopped. That was funny, honestly. Flying out. I was like, oh shit. But
right, then the whole next like 5 minutes is all comedy at that point. Then he flies out. It's like the comedic moment is great. Well, and then Sabretooth.
I like the whole seeing the wound heal on his face though. That was kind of cool. I remember
that was done well.
Ooh, that's cool. The wound heal. But yeah, then the fight with Sabretooth comes. That whole fight, I was like, what the hell's going on? It felt like even visually, it felt like they were on a stage set. It
did. Like, I ended up, looking into it. They were actually outside, in the wilderness and everything. And they had cranes outside that they were hooked up to. Yeah, but that's the worst thing about it. It was all practical effects. They actually set that truck on fire. They actually kicked Wolverine's stunt double in the chest and he went flying off into a tree. But it's like, why does it look so bad? I don't know. I think it's Sabretooth's fault.
I did feel the urgency. I felt the urgency when Marie's stuck. And she's trying to like get out with the thing. I felt that urgency. It was like, shit, gotta get out.
But then when it like cut away from her back to Sabretooth, you'd be like, These eyebrows.
This guy.
Come on.
Again.
And it's just like,
With the fur jacket, with the terrible fur
By the way,
vest.
how-
Why are
how-
we doing this?
how, two questions. How did Sabretooth find them? And the second question, how did the X-Men find them? Like,
Doesn't
how did that
matter.
how did anybody find anybody? This is the middle of nowhere. They don't establish any tracking, things like that. Like, this is the timing, and then that's when
No,
Cyclops
no,
and
we
Storm.
don't
No,
have time
they
for that.
are
We
establishing
have
the
to show-
tracking. Sabretooth was smelling him.
Yeah.
Like
Obviously.
that's
The whole-
literally what Bryan Singer was trying to like. That's why Sabretooth was always like,
All the way here, like in random Canada area, you just
Yeah,
track
you don't
them
know
with
that
the
sense.
smell.
so if you look at
Sniffing
every
around
time,
Canada.
so when
Of course.
Sabretooth is like doing a scene where he's supposed to be like stoic, he's always like. So like yeah, he smelled Wolverine in that truck with all the gasoline, and he smelled Rogue, and that's how he got him.
smelled danger and suspense.
And this is where we're introduced to the school itself. There's some elements of the school that I actually don't mind how it's done. Like for one film, they give us a lot of information about this school. I always used to love the scenes of seeing all the little kids running around, and in my head is like, who is that? Is that a comic book character I recognize? One of my issues though with that whole school thing is that it gets drilled into our head too much though. It's like, okay, we get it. It's a school for gifted youngsters. You don't have to keep showing us. But one thing I didn't pay
Also, we
attention
get
to-
that, Wolverine's a runaway kind of guy, doesn't work with
Right.
teams. Okay. Granted,
get
I
that.
enjoyed, it made me chuckle, his whole escape scene. But at the same time, did it have to make it to the final cut? He could have just woke
Like,
up being skeptical and then ran into
I
Professor
feel like-
X.
See, that specific part I'm conflicted because I also don't like it, but in some ways I get it in hindsight.
Yeah,
only
it's like
because
I
this is
enjoy
someone-
it, but I don't think we need it.
Well, no, I'm saying more so that in the sense that Wolverine as a character, when you know him from context, you realize this is someone who keeps waking up in weird, strange rooms, and he's probably over it.
This is not his first
Like,
time.
this is not his first time.
Like, I'm not
waking
even
This
up.
drunk.
happened to
What
him
the hell?
literally a couple of weeks ago. This
And
went
he's
down.
probably tired of waking up in strange rooms. Like, God damn it, not again.
Oh, where is this
So I get it.
now? I was
one
also
thing I
like,
didn't
when are y'all
realize-
gonna learn to stop waking him up too? Because he strangled, he strangled
God.
girl, then he stabbed
Ray,
Rogue.
Stab
Like, damn,
Rogue.
I
if y'all don't stop sneaking up on this man, come
One thing,
on.
well,
Yeah, that's true. I did not watching that scene again. I totally did not feel bad for Rogue. Like, bitch, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
Leaning
Of course you
over
got stabbed.
somebody's bed while they're sleeping. I would punch you in the face.
I wouldn't walk into a war vet's room and stand
Like,
in the doorway.
my whole thing is, why is
let
his bedroom-
alone
why is his
sit
bedroom
next
open?
to you.
Why is his
I think
bedroom
all the bedrooms were open.
this is wide open. Walk right in.
Yeah.
But one of the things
I like
I
that.
noticed this time around, and I don't think I really noticed it before, when Xavier's introducing doing his whole spiel to Wolverine, he specifically says, "This is a school where we can train these kids to use their powers, and if they want, when they're done, they can stay on and become teachers. The kids have given a name for them, the X-Men." So it's like this school wasn't created to have X-Men. That just became a byproduct of the school as they got older and they stayed there. I thought that was an interesting kind of look at it. And
That makes sense. I mean, but really, you graduate, where do you go?
Oh yeah.
What are you going to be, a lawyer? Going to be an attorney
hey,
now?
You can
It's-
read
I mean,
really
you can
fast.
be.
I
Choice,
mean,
right?
What's your power?
You don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the school is accredited, and maybe those are transferable credits. So
I mean,
I mean, I hope
Olympics.
so. Otherwise, what are you
Watch
going to be,
out.
a waitress? Sure.
I find that Rogue, for someone who's an outcast or sees herself as an outcast, she fit in real quick.
Sure.
Instantly, she was taking classes. She was already taking classes and hanging out.
She was in
Flirting with her
Rogue.
right away.
She had a
a
whole little
boyfriend.
boo thing. Mm-hmm.
Got
I was
ice
like, okay.
roses.
She
you know, like-
wasted no time.
Right.
That movie too, he's making her little ice sculptures and stuff with his hands. Excuse me.
Mhm.
I was wondering
there's
again.
actually no touching needed with his power. If you think about it, he can create all sorts of things. Just saying.
yeah, but he doesn't. Yeah, but he doesn't feel the pleasure. She would.
True.
Well, that's his
It's fine
choice.
for
Let
her.
be with her.
she's
I mean-
all right. That's what really matters.
That shit,
here.
that'd be cold.
Yo, I'm thinking of it now. Part of me is like, ooh, Mufasa.
Listen, to each his own. Maybe that works for them. Who knows?
She got to do what she got to do, man. I'm sure she'd be good with what she got at that point.
Exactly.
The second act kind of brings Magneto's plan into motion. Raven, I'm gonna ask you a question. What the fuck was Magneto's plan, and how did he figure out that he could do that?
All right, so
She said, "All right." She leaned in for
So-
you guys.
All right, so I think this is what I think. I don't know if Magneto is already banking on this bill to pass or not, because apparently he had mad time
Well,
to figure out this plan.
Well, they'd already
So-
established that the World Summit was happening. We get in the background of the first act that the World Summit's going to
Yeah.
happen by Statue of Liberty, blah, blah, blah. So that's already established.
Okay, yeah. So his plan was to create a machine that made everyone in the world, or at least Manhattan, a mutant. Because if everyone's a mutant, no one will be. I don't know.
No one will be
You're a
different.
mutant, and you're not
Yeah.
a mutant.
Exactly. You're a
Even-
mutant, and if everyone's a mutant, then nobody be mad. Nobody can stop them from doing anything. Magneto feels that mutants are the evolved human race, so he feels like by making everyone mutant, it is just making everyone evolve. And then that way, there won't be any hatred or any fear towards his
It'll be-
fellow mutant.
Not at all.
Or at least that's what I thought. I was like, that's for the people, hell yeah. But then, I'm not really sure, because I think it just became more so about his evil plot to say fuck all authority.
With the World Summit, they were all world leaders there, right? So at the very least, if I can change the world leaders,
Because he
into
wanted
mutants,
to change all the world leaders, into mutants.
Without changing everyone else.
He's just an angry
Right.
old man.
Hey, you kids, get off
You
my
know,
lawn.
he's been alive a long time, and
But-
just salty.
but he's-
just old and
he's in
salty.
that middle ground of being an angry old man, but yet part of the next generation.
Yeah,
Just
because he's
like-
young enough to like still float.
Well, my whole thing with him, like, not to even go into the fact that how did he even acquire that tech? Because that's not an ability. Where did that machine come from? Who built that machine? Nobody on his
Tesseract,
team was a scientist.
obviously.
Did you say the Tesseract? Shut up.
Like, he didn't have a scientist. on his
Clearly,
team.
he
Like,
had
how-
access to an Infinity Stone, and
They were in some random cave somewhere. It's just like, okay. My whole thing is
that's
setting
the
that
untold
aside.
story. It's in the
His plan,
deleted scenes.
his plan is like akin to like being a villain who wants to make a black villain who wants to make everyone black, or a gay villain who wants to make everyone gay. So it's just like, that's your plan.
I don't know if we're actually solving anything, and I think we still are the enemy here. We might need to
It's
rethink
just
this
like-
plan.
Like if you're forcing your ways and self technically onto someone, there's a term for that. But,
Right.
it's rape. It is.
We get to see the first
He's
test
like, look,
of-
this
of
is what
that,
I am. Take it.
right?
Is that like genocide,
choice. Yeah.
genocidal rape or something like that, where it's like, or gene rape? That's gene rape, where it's like
Gene.
Yeah.
he's just like
Yeah.
raping everybody's
Biological rape.
genes without ever like
Yeah.
asking them. Just gonna change your your
Yeah.
biological
a
makeup.
couple of things established in the sequence in the second act as well. We get to see the first test of that on the senator. That's why he gets kidnapped. I spoke briefly about Mystique in that sequence on the helicopter when she pretends to be the aide, and I think you get a moment of understanding Mystique for a bit. You know, if you know her storyline as well, she is someone who has had to hide her looks. Her narrative plays on the fact that people fear her because she can't look. Her natural state isn't normal. And that's kind of her storyline, which I liked a lot. But we also Jean gets a glimpse of Logan's past, and I never made this connection, right? That moment with Jean and Logan, when she's looking into his mind, and she sees his past. That's what triggers his dream later on when he then stabs Rogue. I never made the two connection together before. I was like, oh, that's why he's having.
Oh,
this
because she
thing.
unlocked like a trauma in
Yeah.
his brain. Got
Exactly,
Yeah.
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I get it. And that sequence when she does stab Rogue, yeah, I like that sequence because and again, another thing I didn't notice before, because that leads to everyone being fearful of Rogue. Because from everyone's point of view, all they hear is Wolverine scream out, "Somebody help!" and then they walk in to see Rogue putting him into a coma, so to speak. So I'm like, well,
True.
yeah, this guy who's like those badass, you just took him down. Yeah, I don't want to come anywhere near you. So I understand when fake Bobby, played by Mystique, kind of tells her, "Nobody likes you. You should leave. I was like, damn, shit. I'd be traumatized too. I'd feel some kind of
Like
You
even
would
still
believe
knowing it wasn't him, I
something
watched
like
it
that.
again and was like, ouch, man.
Yeah.
Cold.
Ouch. That hurts.
Like, ooh.
She's been through a lot, okay?
But does this also establish I didn't realize this is established that Rogue is one of the few people that can kill Wolverine
I think she can.
because
I think
they
she
say
would've
that
held on
she held on
longer
longer.
then.
Yeah. We also get one of the most iconic sequences using Cerebro. I thought that was pretty cool. I found out today that
Cerebro's dope.
Cerebro it's just Spanish for brain. So like,
Also, fun fact, I was like walking in front of my screen, like the TV screen, and all the people that are in Cerebro are just like the same people, just multiplied and put in different spots. Like the black guy that's in the front and the Adidas jacket that's like this.
Back in the day, they're like, no one's
Shows
paying
up like
attention to
3
this.
more times, and I'm like, isn't that the same person?
Yeah, actually,
a
no,
good
I
moment.
do remember that because I remember thinking when I was a kid, I was like, that dude must be really important. He's coming back in the second
He's
film.
everywhere.
He's
I
in the
remember,
same
like,
position
looking-
too.
Yeah.
And because this is
Cerebro
a time
comes
where
with stock
superhero
photos.
movies were new to us, I remember looking to see, is that somebody? I have to recognize that character. Like when I got it on DVD, I would pause in certain sections to try and recognize any
Yeah.
characters.
On the
Yeah,
DVD of
yeah.
this film, too, I remember specifically there was a way where you could play the film where the deleted scenes would play with it during the film.
Mhm.
So it was like an extended cut, but like there was like a little icon in the corner of the screen that would let you know it was like a deleted scene. So like I only had the DVD. Well, I watched the DVD a lot of times, so it's like crazy when I see just the original. There's so many scenes missing to me. But I wish that they still did that. Like that's not a thing anymore. Like any
No,
DVD
not
after
so much.
that, you could watch deleted scenes in a whole separate part of the menu, but it's never like interlaced where they like add it, and show you that it's deleted. You can only get extended cut or original and watch deleted scenes. So.
We also get the set pieces at the train station. A couple of things that stood out to me at the train station was when Magneto is controlling Wolverine on the train. It's just like holding him. It's like, does that whole thing run through your body? It does.
Does that
It's like, oh, shit.
remarkable metal run through your entire body?
Yeah.
Too
Nah.
easy.
When I was a kid, I was like,
Yes.
oh no, you in trouble.
I know, right? I was thinking, oh,
You would live.
He gonna
coming.
get you.
and that's where you find out. It's like whoever said it was Charles coming after you. It's like, oh shit, he's not after
Yeah.
you. He's after
I like how it gives him just
Wolverine.
Not
enough to
everything's
turn his
about
neck,
you.
like, oh
Yeah.
no. It's like, yes.
Then I was
Show
laughing
them.
too because I was like, well, that's embarrassing. You know when somebody's waving and you think they're waving at you? And it's the person behind you? It's like so much more embarrassing that you're floating in the air and the whole train's looking at you.
This whole movie
Not
plot
you,
thinking that
stupid
it was about
hat.
you
When nobody
and
talking to you.
Right. Before that sequence, though, there's one moment that always bothers me when Wolverine steals Cyclops' motorbike and he has that super sped up scene. And he's like, "Ugh." I was like, what the fuck is this?
It made no sense.
Me too. I was
It's
watching.
like,
I was
wait,
like,
does
first of all,
Cyclops have some super fast bike I never heard about? What?
the
Does he have a Batmobile?
Thank you. And if the bike actually went that fast from like, he's already going what 80 miles an hour. So now you're
Yeah.
saying he's going from 80 to
You
200.
thought he had a bad accident in the beginning of the movie.
On a bike?
Just takes one little turtle to trip over.
His body would not have been prepared, and you would have snapped his
Just
fucking
a
neck
little
with
rock.
whiplash. She would have been like, "Look."
Right.
It was so unnecessary. But I always remember that part, and I always remember thinking, huh? I was like 11, 10.
No,
and
the
it
other
made
part
no
I kept
sense then.
thinking about was like, first of all, how you gonna notice that your bike is gone, but you not gonna notice that he left before you when you guys were in the same
I wonder,
room?
like, how fast is this guy to
True.
think about stealing the bike, accomplishing that?
You
You
guys
still
were
have enough
all
time
just
for everyone to come in and be like, what's going on?
thank you.
Yeah.
You
Do
were
you
all
know
just
how I-
in the
do you know
same
how I-
room.
I figured out how that
That's
works,
bold, though. He
logistics.
just walked out and hopped straight on his bike
I'll
from a
tell you,
conversation
I'll
with
tell you
him.
how
like,
that logistics that
bold.
works. It works because they spent 20 minutes putting on their costumes. And he didn't have a costume.
Yeah.
True.
yeah,
There you
yeah.
They
go.
were too busy suiting up.
Gotta get the hair ready.
Yeah.
He's
yeah,
like, what
there
the
it
fuck are
is.
you guys doing? We
They're
have to
trying
go
to get into
save
the
this-
leather. He's trying to get into the leather. He's like,
I
give me
will
talcum
say,
powder. Come
though,
on.
I will say, in watching it this time, though, I was like, those suits do look very uncomfortable and tight as hell. Like, those are not breathable. You know?
This was like stiff leather.
in the crotch area.
Ooh,
Yeah, no.
yeah, and you're fighting
You can
crime.
imagine-
You're like sweating and shit.
You can imagine, like,
Yeah,
gross.
that doesn't breathe.
You can imagine like the in-camera audio. Could all you heard was the leather stretching every time they walked. You had to ADR all their dialogue because all you could hear is
Oh yeah,
stretching
for
leather.
sure. Because even the scene, he says it later when they take off. In the jet later, when he's like, all these suits or whatever. You guys really wear these? What did you think we wear? Spandex? Or what did you say? Yellow spandex?
Yeah.
And
I
was
thought you wore regular clothes. What you
and all I could
mean?
think was like, so you trying to burn Wolverine's original outfit? First of all,
But but that's what I mean, right? Not to get caught up in
spandex
that.
is way more
That's what I mean.
comfortable and breathable, man. It's practical.
But that's what I mean in sense of this movie also tries to own the movie but make fun of the genre at the same time, but not
Yeah.
ironically. It's almost as if
Yeah.
it doesn't want to admit that it's a nerd. You know when you're young and you're a nerd, you didn't want to admit it. You're like, oh
You'd
no,
be like
I
nerd.
don't
You'd be
like
like,
that.
no.
It's
Yeah.
like PSA.
No, it's
We
not
loved
cool.
the blue and yellow. Like that was like nobody ever
That
said we
was a
didn't like the
burn
blue.
for
And,
me. 'Cause I was like,
nobody
I
said
like
we
that
didn't like
yellow
the blue and
suit.
yellow. Everybody was looking forward to that scene and being like, ah, "What is the black?
just
Why you guys
insecure
look like a
about
biker gang?"
Yeah,
Right.
the confused biker gang. Like it don't
Right.
even look right.
And
It
some
would
of
make
y'all
more
got
sense with
capes.
jeans.
Some of you don't. Why does the
That's why
black
in
girl
First
have a
Class-
cape?
In first class, when they have the actual uniforms, I was like, yeah, that's how
Yeah, because
yeah.
somebody like I don't know, like people try to argue sometimes with First Class. People be like, I thought it was okay. I'm like, fuck out of here, yo. It's like
No,
And
almost
that's
my
not-
no, people
number
tried
one.
to
watched it
hate on the
again last night.
costumes.
First Class is like my favorite one, and I'm like the
Thank
costumes
you.
It
are
is
the
my
best
favorite.
part. Also, people don't think about the fact that First Class took place in the 70s. Was
Yeah,
it way earlier, right?
Something like that, 60s, 70s.
I'm like, what do you think
do
they
you
would
want?
wear? Of course they're gonna wear
Balmain?
bright suits. Fucking crime.
One of my
fighters,
favorite
man.
moments of the movie is when Xavier takes over Sabretooth's mind and is threatening Magneto, and Magneto's like, oh, you want to threaten me? Well, I'm going to threaten all these cops. And he just like that sequence when he shoots the guy and the bullets in his face.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
stuck there. Oh,
Love I felt his pain. Like, ugh. I'm like, yeah, imagine
in
the
a
bullet
second, your
drilling,
life could be gone. Yeah. And it's just
like just
waiting.
drill into your brain, and then all the guns just cocks, and he's like, oh, I can't stop them all,
Mhm.
Charles. I love that.
He could.
Though
I can't stop the ball, Charles. that's fine.
one of my nitpicks of that moment when Xavier is grabbing, using Sabretooth to grab Magneto by the neck, we established earlier on that Magneto can't be tracked because of the helmet, right? But his teammates don't have helmets. You could have tracked them through them. Track Sabretooth, you find Magneto. Like you could have controlled him this whole time. I feel like they didn't really push that. That moment was just to show us a cool Magneto sequence, which I thought admittedly was pretty cool though. In terms of the
They
film.
also just
I did
found
like
any reason at all to throw Sabretooth in his terrible costume in any scene with no context. So I think that was an actual major goal in the film. I think that they were like, how many scenes can we throw Sabretooth into with no context at all? Throw his ass in there and let's see. Like, you know what? He's still in costume? Okay, cool. Throw him in the next scene. Thanks.
just throw him in there. It was a good way to showcase Xavier's powers, controlling. We didn't.
I
We didn't
did
really
love
see his mind
that,
control
though.
properly. It's done very well. Yeah, I thought that was done very well. The final act takes us to Magneto's actual plan taking place. Senator Kelly arrives at the school and is subsequently turned into jelly in in Storm's
like
hands.
KY too. It was nasty.
Jelly. KY jelly.
I love that effect. That visual effect.
The
is done
effect was
very
done
well, I think.
so well.
So one of my
And he
love
still
that.
stands up. Because I still watch
Like
it. I
his
still
skin,
think,
like his skin gets translucent. You can see his veins, and he gets
Yeah.
blobby. It's
Mm.
like, oh, done
yeah,
so
if you
well,
guys
done
are
so well.
listening to this, look it up on YouTube. There's like a whole video of just how the process of that one scene. And it's like, like a 5-second scene? And it took a very long time. There's like 10 different, I'd probably say 15 different layer overlays. Because it's like the first layer is just the bones. And then you have another layer of like the skin. And then the veins. And then the translucency or whatever of like the metallic shade. Then the water overlay. And then there's like water on the bed itself in real life that they had to splash. So like the combination of the two is done really, really well. And I think that's why it still stands up. But if you guys have the time, look it up on YouTube. It's done really well.
Where are we? Magneto does have a good contingency plan in terms of making sure the X-Men don't chase him. When he sends Mystique there to sabotage Cerebro, so that when Xavier uses it, he gets knocked out. I thought that was a pretty good counter plan to make sure they don't come after you. He just didn't think Jean would use it either to find them when Jean uses it. I like the suit up montage. I used to always think the X-Jet was awesome, by the way, when it comes out and the playground opens
That was
up.
well
I like,
done.
yeah.
Sure.
They did a really good job of
Jet.
like doing the X-Wing and like making you feel like you were watching the TV show when they were about to go on a mission. So that was pretty awesome. Kudos to
And
you.
also, I think they also did a good job of reminding us this is at a school, so all the other kids are like, "Oh, cool! The X-Men are going out!" Like the excitement of like, oh, "Look out your window!" the
Yeah.
X-Jet's
Some of them
going
had
out."
never
Varsity
seen it before,
football team.
clearly. Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
it's like one day I can't wait to graduate and become an X-Men myself. Like that kind of
Get to do cool stuff like that.
ideal.
Until
I think
you
they did a
know,
good
like
job.
the job is literally an occupational hazard, and you could die.
People die
You will die.
for sure.
I like when they infiltrate. Is it Staten? It's not Staten. I keep saying Staten Island.
Ellis
Liberty
Island.
Ellis
Yeah.
Island. There you go.
But
Liberty.
like,
I did. Was both right? They have Liberty Island and Ellis Island. Are they? Those are both.
it's like, first of all, that the issue that I have with that fight scene is like you made Toad look like such a badass, but then it's like when Halle Berry
They
Made
set him
finally
up
Storm
kicks
such a
look like-
badass.
like when she kicks his ass, it's like, first of all, she could have. You're telling me that you waited this long to like do the whole gust of wind, like when Mystique was, you couldn't. What now? You
Yeah.
can do, what you're waiting.
Also,
Takes a lot
that
of
shit
power
is
up, I
still
guess.
nasty when he like mucus coughs on her face.
Yeah.
Which I think is
trash
Oh,
immediately.
still
It's a-
so gross.
And that's the thing. I think I agree with you, Sadie. They set up Toad to be almost like a badass, even with the grossness. Right? It's gross, but it works within his character. And I
Yeah,
even
for
like.
sure.
Mike, did you notice the Star Wars reference when he spins the?
Oh
stick?
yeah. However, wait, was that? It was after. This was right after
This is-
Phantom Menace.
This is right after. Right after.
Yeah,
Phantom
yeah.
Menace.
I had a feeling
It's
because I'm like, he takes that right after he gets out of the elevator, does a
And he
little
spins the
fucking
stick.
move,
I was like,
poses
the camera
for
pauses.
nobody.
You're
That was weird a little bit.
Why does when Storm fly up the elevator shaft? Why does she have to lift her one leg? Like, does the lifting the one leg like give her
Because
more
it's a
like
pose.
power?
Because Magneto does the same thing.
True.
That's true. Yeah, it's
The
like
one-
does
Maybe
lifting
that's the cue to pull the cables. That's
When I lift
That's
my
it,
leg
I
up,
guess.
when-
because
Lift me.
literally
When I do my
they're all
Captain
hooked up
Morgan
to
pose.
cables.
Yeah.
So maybe they're like, we're recording sound. You can't say anything. So maybe it's just like when I lift my foot. I'm like, okay,
Captain
lift the
Morgan
foot.
pose.
Oh, there it is.
makes no sense.
Make a
makes
cool
no sense at
pose.
all.
We'll lift you up. All right.
one part I didn't notice till this time as well is that I thought Mystique couldn't turn into inanimate objects, but she pretends to be the Statue of Liberty when they go in there. It looks pretty
so-
solid.
No. What?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
She pretends to be like a fake thing,
Not
and I'm like, I thought she could
not
only do
life-size, but-
I thought she could only copy biological. Like that was
Yeah.
the whole
Mhm.
thing because she's copying the
like,
cells. That's a
like, what?
statue. There are no cells in there.
Okay.
Though I did like her fight. We mentioned
So
earlier,
we
her
thought.
fight with Wolverine. It was a good
Fight
fight.
with
It was a
Wolverine
good
was dope.
savage
That was
versus
a good fight.
elegant fight. Yeah. And then when they're in the flame of the Statue of Liberty, I like how Wolverine gets out when he stabs himself. Like, I was like,
That was pretty cool.
I
That
always thought
was
that was
good. That was
that
well
was
done.
Yep.
That part
Definition of
still,
taking
I'm like-
one.
Yeah, that moment I'm still like badass. Yeah.
well, again, especially when
That's the
it's
thing.
established
The only
earlier
person
on.
that looks good throughout this whole thing is Wolverine.
Well, especially because
Every
they
scene is
established earlier on
designed.
that it's established earlier on that just because it heals doesn't mean he doesn't feel pain. So then that scene is made even more pronounced when you're like, no, he's gonna feel this one. Like
Yep.
he's gonna really feel.
He's
it.
literally going to
Stabbing
stab himself.
Yeah. Ugh.
himself. Right. I have issues, with this fight against Sabretooth. I think there's too many wire foo things going on. Like, it's cool, but that moment when he spins around the spike of the Statue of Liberty.
I mean, I remember that in the trailer, so I
He
was
looks
already
like-
ready.
When Sabretooth flies, he looks like a flying squirrel monkey, like cat. Like he's always like, like
Because I feel like there's no weight. There's no weight to them.
Yeah.
They feel like They feel floaty all the
It
time.
looks almost like when
Yeah.
you scare a cat and a cat like leaps off the sofa. Like that's what
feel
happens
like-
every time.
a fight
Maybe that's what they were going for.
A fight between Magneto,
like a
between
scared cat
Sabretooth
leap.
and Wolverine should be badass. Like that should be like, yo, that's a badass fight. I think the
Yeah,
Mystique
it
fight
was
is better.
not.
what dude? First, because it's like, even though he's like say he's mixed with like Sabretooth genes, I still feel like he'd fight like a man. What dude is gonna jump off something and be like, at least they'd be like,
Yeah, yeah.
they like shoulder check you or something.
This
like,
isn't the audition for Catwoman. Are you sure?
wait,
Or
it's
cat.
like no, it was cats.
Yeah.
Cats.
I love the line. I love the
Pre
line
Tom
where,
Hopper.
So
I love the line when
Oh.
Magneto, when someone says to Storm, use the lightning, and Magneto's like, lightning and a copper conductor. I thought you went to a school.
I thought you were
I
doing
love that line.
oh, that was good.
That That was a burn.
He did have a
Yeah.
lot of
I was
good
like,
burns.
burn.
That's why he was the man, yo. Magneto, you like
See,
it.
Gotta
and that
be.
was another moment where they played Scott and made Scott look like a dumbass, like he's not a lead. Like what leader?
Every
Because
time.
it's true. He's like, use your power, Storm. It's like, aren't they in metal? Like I feel like the whole audience was even like, aren't they in a metal container right
Yeah.
now?
Idiot.
Thought you went to a
Storm was about to get started. Then, do you know what happens?
Maybe you don't.
There's something about the way Sir Ian McKellen says that line. I thought you lived
Oh,
in
it's
a
amazing.
the school is just so like he's just so
Yeah.
shitting on him. He's like a school.
It's the same
I
way
don't know
that
if you
he
guys
was like, "Is that
noticed it.
remarkable? What went into your whole body?" It's like,
Mhm.
yeah.
I don't
You
know if
just feel
guys
stupid
noticed
when
it,
he talks.
Right. I don't know if
He's
you guys noticed it,
condescending.
but there's a sequence when they break into the island, the bad guys. When Toad jumps and squashes the guy from above, I remember being like, "Whoa! Did he just like squeeze that guy into
Yeah.
the ground?" I was
Because
like, "Holy
Toad was
shit."
like never cool.
yeah, he almost
Did I
got there in
miss
this film
something?
though. He almost got there.
He almost did. This film, I was almost like, wow, he's not just some stupid henchman. He's like kind of cool, I guess. He's
Jizzing on
disgusting.
people's faces. I'm sorry.
his
I,
martial
every time
arts.
oh yeah, with the tongue thing. Yeah. Oh my god, that's so funny.
Like, I was like, but even his disgusting stuff like the spit, they made it work for his character as a really cool offensive defensive maneuver. I'm like, all right, it's disgusting, but it works. So I'm like, like if somebody's trying to get into your mind, spit in her
I
face
just
so she
felt
can't
like
breathe.
he was just like.
I like the touch of how they showed us, because in the comics and the cartoons, Rogue's look famously, she has the white streak of hair. So we see how she gets that in this by using the machine that we don't know how it works. She just gets it apparently.
Like, you're a little older now, I guess.
Get it.
But
It's
see,
a
this
hair
will-
dyeing machine.
This what bothers me with the
Your
machine.
ass in that machine.
So clearly the machine can only work with Magneto's powers, because that's why he has Rogue absorb his powers so that his powers can come through her. Who made this machine? I need to know.
Like, first of all, it's not even just the machine. Who made all of Magneto's fortress? Like, what
Murbob,
scientist
mutant
was?
machines,
Who made
and
the jail?
Peril.
Like the jail with the whole bars, just like inside of the cave. Like, who did that? Where you do that at?
Well, apparently, doesn't Magneto? He can mold metal.
But he's
Like,
not a scientist. He don't.
I know.
Like,
But there was like how he got out of that
Equations.
prison. The second one, he pulled iron from a guy who had too much in his body,
Yeah.
created that into a little ball, and then was
Oh,
able to
yeah.
like fold that and mend
Yeah,
it
I can
however he
see
wants.
him creating.
became
the cave.
Katara.
I can definitely see him creating the cave,
Yep.
a
but not
water
this machine.
bloodbender.
Like
I
this
don't.
machine, like-
yeah. I wasn't there. I didn't do the contract for the machine. It was definitely a third-person party. Somebody was hired. It's like
Who built the
Right.
machine? That's the next question for the next podcast.
Yeah,
I
there
feel
you
like
go. We'll never
that's a
know.
very specific machine, like a very, very specific machine with specific needs. And yeah, and I don't know how they fixed.
Because I feel like she could have been any mutant. Like I can't figure out how her powers specifically
Yeah.
are the ones needed
Well, no,
for
because
that
her
machine.
powers work.
She could have got anybody.
her
What, 'cause
powers are
she
needed.
absorbs?
No, her powers works because it has to be Magneto's powers. So he gives her his power. It has to be his power. The machine's activated by his power. If he
Got
uses it,
it.
he will die because he's old. So he
He's
transfers his
used-
powers to her because she's the only one that can absorb his powers, and then she's using it. So
Like a
it's not the
conduit.
same mutant.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
wow. I missed that entirely.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the conduit for the machine because he can't physically take all the power. Because as an old member, he was like, oh.
But it has to be his power. It can't just be any mutant. It has to be his ability. That's what I'm saying. Who the fuck built it so
That
specific?
makes more sense now that you said it. I
Like,
mean, maybe
why
we
are
built that
Magneto's
shit.
genomes so important that when you put it with this, like, and then what was that
Right.
goopy stuff that was like flying out of the machine? Like, was it like a gel? Was it like
Couldn't
a
tell you.
blob?
I feel like they did a good job of. We don't have money for
It's a metaphysical
graphics.
mist.
Graphics are new to us.
Yeah.
Let's just have a light. Just
Yeah.
go around.
Yeah,
there you
yeah.
go. It works. It does its job.
Graphics
They
are
save
new
the
to us.
day. Magneto gets stopped, and we get the epilogue. I like the idea that Mystique had escaped, even though like the bright white yellow eyes on camera were the X-Men the only ones that noticed that. Nobody else noticed the eyes.
Yeah.
like
I was waiting to see like conspiracy videos on YouTube. Be like, if you close up, freeze frame.
Nothing.
Look at this.
Nothing.
were
No
like-
one cares.
nobody cares. The
No,
bright
you're
yellow
crazy.
eyes.
No one cares.
You put that there. That was it.
And 6 more
Wasn't everything.
movies. Ooh.
And then we get hinted at again that Wolverine's gonna go to Canada, which is where the second film picks off, right? We see Wolverine in the military installation, so that's a nice little touch. And Magneto's prison. I used to always love the metal-free prison. I used to always think, oh, that's kind of cool. That's how.
Yeah,
you
that was
hold
dope.
Magneto. I was like, I like that. I like that. But Magneto warns the fight will continue, and the fight does continue in many, many movies.
7 more
going
films.
forward.
What, 8? 9?
I don't know.
9.
There's enough of them. Enough of them. Though, like I said, I think I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I think as for its faults are understandable. My nitpicks
It's
are
still
just that
entertaining.
nitpicks.
Oh,
I
yeah,
still
for
find it
sure.
really fun.
It,
Like, it's one of
it's
those
a
movies that if you've never seen it-
trailblazer.
If you'd never seen it, but you heard the hype around it, you could watch it, understand why it like you said, trailblazer, why it set this kind of standard for movies going forward of its kind. Anything else, guys, to add? I think that's it. That's
Not at all.
enough. I enjoyed
I
this
think
movie.
that about
I
did
look
it.
Right. I'm gonna go finish watching First Class because my wife fell asleep.
Yeah, I'm
watching it
definitely
yesterday.
about to start First
didn't
Class
finish it.
right now.
Yeah, that movie's so good. Magneto's theme. Actually, let's talk about the theme of this movie. They did a good job of almost mimicking the cartoon theme song, because it's da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da.
Oh,
Instead
that's
of
true.
da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did like
They
that.
take a
It's
sample
subtle,
of
but
it.
you could
This
hear
is
it.
the
still.
first half, yeah.
Yeah. It's like da-da-da-da,
Still good.
da-da-da-da. I was like, ooh, I
Just
could
a
like this, I
light-
like this.
Still catchy.
Yeah, it's a nice
Just a
touch.
little.
Nice touch.
They just sprinkled it on there.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway,
Yeah.
I can go on forever. Thank you guys for being part of this. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raven.
Thank you.
And thank you to our special guest for joining us this week, Mercedes.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you guys for listening. My name is English Dave, and this has been a Nerdy Bunch presentation of Back to the Feature. And this week we looked at X-Men, and we all feel old. And as always, Raven,
Keep it nerdy.
peace out, guys.